Welcome to another edition of Thought Leaders Live, where we talk with thought leaders in business, life, and all points in between. Today, very excited to welcome to the show a friend of mine who we've known each other for a long time, kind of
Long.
reconnected after a little bit of a gap here. Rachel Thompson, founder of Bad Redhead Media. Rachel, so excited that you're here with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been great to reconnect.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about how Substack is an author's secret weapon. And I first met Rachel many moons ago when I was starting to write and put together some fiction, and came across Rachel and all the work she's done to help writers self-publish and sell books, really. And so, Rachel, why don't you tell everybody, give us a little bit about your journey and tell us what you're doing at Bad Redhead Media.
Sure. Well, the journey probably started at the age of 10 when I decided I wanted to be a writer. And so I asked my parents for a desk and some writing paper and some pencils. And I was thrilled, absolutely
Yeah.
thrilled. There's like so many pictures of me. It was the cheapest little desk, but it didn't matter. I was so happy. Then I go to college and my parents say, well, writing isn't really a well-paying job. It's hard to make a living as a writer. So why don't you go into pharmaceutical sales like your older sister? And I was like, okay. So I ended up going into big pharma, did that for 20 something years, moved to New Jersey and worked in the home office, moved back to California. At that point, I was married, had two children. And then I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't. I was good at it. I did well with it, but I just couldn't carry a bag into a doctor's office anymore and say, hey, write my blood pressure drug. Like I didn't sell anything really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I quit and helped my ex with his business. We were still together at the time. And then started my own business and started writing my own books. And I realized early on what I hated about pharma was I'm trying to get a piece of paper here. Look at this, feature, advantage, benefit. Write my product, right? It was just so stupid. But what I loved about it was developing relationships with the doctors, with their families, seeing them outside of the office. That kind of stuff was really fun and neat. I mean, I was invited to people's homes to have dinner with their family. And
Wow.
so those are the doctors that I really loved interacting with. And what I learned from that was what I brought into my own business when I started 15 years ago, Bad Redhead Media, which is really about either doing the work for the authors so they can focus on the writing, or if the budget doesn't allow for that, I can consult with people, I coach them, and I can train them how to do certain things. And then, of course, now Substack has become the big thing. I've published 8 books, 3 just for writers. And so if people can't afford to hire me, they at least can read the books, and my Substack is free. So.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your books. We'll get to the books about publishing and self-publishing. And sorry if you hear a pooch in the background. But what you've written several of your own books, and you chose to self-publish them. And that, I'm assuming that is kind of what led to the business and like, hey, people need help with this. I know how to do it. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
It is interesting. I did start self-publishing my first couple of books, which were humor books. I don't really promote them anymore. They were called The Man Code Exposed and A Walk in the Snark. And it was just really silly, humorous, sarcastic things about marriage. And we ended up apart. And so I just don't promote those anymore.
Yeah.
And my kids were little and they're grown, they're adults now. So at that point I thought, well, okay, I met some people involved in self-publishing. I took on some roles helping people with their social media just so I could learn about it. And then I ended up self-publishing those first 2 humor books. Once that happened, agents and small publishers started contacting me. And I ended up signing with a hybrid publisher So they did all the work, and then we did the authors did all the marketing. Unfortunately, that didn't work out very well because authors don't want to market their books. They want
No,
the publisher to do it, right?
right.
But the hybrid publisher, that's not really their job. So that ended up folding, which was a bummer. But I did run an imprint for them for about 6 months, which was great because I hadn't worked in publishing prior to that point. So that gave me some really good experience. I read a lot of great books and I read a lot of really terrible books. So, I think that you have to have some sort of mechanism to filter through these things. So, I read a lot of stuff. I helped publish a lot of stuff. They folded. Then I ended up with a small traditional publisher based in New York City and an agent, and they republished several of my books. And after about 18 months, I had made no money.
Hmm.
They were lovely. My agent was lovely. The publishing company was wonderful, but I figure I'm doing all this marketing,
Yeah.
so why don't I just do the whole thing and keep 100% of it? Well, what percent I get?
Right.
Amazon gives you 70%. So that's what I did, and that's how I really ended up just doing all self-publishing at this point. But that's for me. I work with all authors. I have traditionally published, hybrid, self-published, small publishers, all kinds of different people and ways of publishing.
Okay. Let's just talk a little bit more about. I guess really then I was going to ask you about self-publishing, but to me the game really isn't necessarily as much about publishing, self-publishing, as it is about the marketing, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and who's doing it? Like, I haven't published any books, but I know I talked to an agent one time about a book idea, and she's like, "That's great. Now send me your business plan." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Well, that's so common though. It's interesting because I was the same way when I met with an agent. It was like 2012, and she's like, "I love your humor books. I'd like to see you write something more serious. I think you have it in you. And I'd like to see you up to 10,000 followers on your Facebook page, 20,000 followers on Twitter. At the time, Twitter was a big deal. And I didn't have anywhere near those kinds of numbers. Like that just didn't exist. So then it became kind of at the time that I started my business, you need to grow on social media because and to this day publishers and agents will still look at that and say not just how many followers you have though, because they got smart because people started buying fake followers just to inflate the
Yeah.
numbers, right? So now they want to know your engagement, your reach, your views, and those analytics are available on all of the socials.
Sure.
So any author who has social media who wants, or a writer who's not published yet, who wants to be picked up traditionally, you need to have a platform. They're going to ask those questions.
And so now that segues us nicely into the platform we want to talk about today, Substack.
Yeah.
And probably the new kid on the block for a lot of people out there. And it's not just an author's platform, but tell us why you think this is the secret weapon for an author today.
Well, I don't think I realized it initially because I had a few clients on Substack, like pre-pandemic, and I had no idea what it was. They had it a plug-in so that it became their blog on their website, or you could read them on the Substack app. The app has grown significantly. So when it first started out, I'm guessing like 2013, 2015, I'm not sure. It was a competitor for Medium. And if you're familiar with Medium, that was an online app. You can use it on the web or on your mobile app, where people would go and write and people would go and read, and you could pay to get there wasn't really paywalls, but they instituted a $50 yearly fee for you to have access to people's stuff. So I wrote there for a while, but we weren't capturing subscriber data. So it took me a long time to figure out that I was putting effort out it was getting indexed. And that's the thing I'm always looking at is visibility. Medium is indexed, meaning the content gets scraped by Google and other searches, AI search and all that. So it's important to think of it that way as well. But I didn't feel like I was getting the ROI based on the amount of time that I was spending writing. And then over the pandemic, Substack blew up because a lot of people were had nothing else to do with their time and were working from home and going crazy. So they started their stacks or their Substacks. So I like Substack because it does a number of different things. It lives on the web, so you anyone can see it as long as you haven't paywalled it. And it is indexed by Google and other AI search, right? So I like that. It's also newsletter platform. I started 20, 15 years ago in publishing, and it took me all that time to get to 1,800 newsletter opt-in subscribers through
Right.
Mailer Lite or MailChimp, right? There was no incentive for people to really sign up, even though I created, magnets and all that stuff.
Right.
Substack, and then you have to pay for it, right? So it like if you
Yeah.
go over 1,000 subscribers on MailChimp, I think you have to pay like $25 a month or something. Could
Right.
be wrong, but it's not cheap. Substack is completely free. You import your existing subscribers. So I imported my 1,800 in 2023 of August, which is when I started writing there. I'm now over 12,000 subscribers.
Whoa.
I've never seen growth like this on a with an as an author with a newsletter. Plus, it's free. I could get, I mean, let's just say, knock on wood, I get 1 million subscribers. They're not going to say, oh, now we have to charge you because you have so many subscribers. That doesn't happen. Where they get their money, though, is if we as creators turn on paid subscriptions. So let's say my subscription is $7 a month. They take 10% right off the top. Whether or if someone wants to pay for the year, it's $80. They take their $8. That's how they make their money. And then of course Stripe gets a small percentage as well. But all that you can write off as well. So for me, it's important because I'm able to build one-on-one relationships via the subscriber. But also, if people aren't subscribers, they can still follow and see my stuff on the app. They also have Substack Notes, which is internally their social media feed. So that is not scraped or indexed by Google, but they're important for growth. It's like any other social media. So that's kind of a newer addition over the last few years. They added in the social media notes. And now that you can also do live, we could go live on Substack. We can go, you can either do video or audio only. A lot of people prefer audio only spaces. I did a lot of spaces on Twitter, uh, and then it became X and it became super glitchy and a lot of weirdos show up to the spaces. So I just stopped doing them.
Okay.
But now that's an option as well. And I've had good experiences doing audio and live streams there.
Okay. So fantastic. I just one quick thought that comes to mind is, Substack is in its, I don't know if it's in its infancy, but
Mhm.
it's relatively new for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of the days when Facebook was growing leaps and bounds, and then all of a sudden, they're like, I don't know if they just their investors said, "Hey, where's the profit?" Um, they changed their algorithm, and they started to limit who could see your posts, and so
Yeah.
that free traffic suddenly. Do you think? I mean, who knows where the world's going, right? But
Yeah.
do you see a similar trajectory with Substack, or are they set up differently?
They're set up differently because there's no advertising. So there's literally no ads on the entire site. The only you won't even see ads. The only thing that I've read that they're going to be potentially offering is connecting creators who are performing well with companies as sponsors. So I
Okay.
already have a sponsor, Genius Link, And so I put in there, thank you, gratitude to Genius Link, a free universal book link or, book linking
Yeah.
tool. And I linked to them. And they've been my sponsor for almost the whole time that I've been doing this, which keeps me, I publish every Wednesday morning, like, like clockwork.
Okay. And so you're publishing an article.
Hmm.
It basically is like a blog.
Yes,
And it's the newsletter is the article being pushed
correct,
out. Yeah.
correct.
It's kind of like in the old days with WordPress where it automatically would just publish to anybody who subscribed. Sounds like the
Right.
old WordPress of old, right? Um,
Yes, but what's nice though is if you have hit publish and you have no subscribers, most people don't when they start, it still exists on the app and people can still find you. So
yeah.
there's some back end stuff that's really important so that Substack can connect you and what you write about with what readers have put in as their interests. So that's a lot of what I do on the back end for people
Okay.
because most people don't even realize that there are certain things they need to do to be more visible.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's an exciting, I don't know what their ownership model is or who owns it or who's doing this, but
It's a
uh,
company, I think it's two guys that are partners, and I know they have investors too.
okay.
But so far they've been very um, transparent about the fact that they don't want ads on the platform. And they also don't want third party tools. For example, I use Hootsuite to schedule all my stuff in for clients, right?
Yeah.
I can even schedule WordPress stuff if I want to. I can't schedule anything into Substack. And they're
Mm,
doing that on purpose because they don't want the platform to be spammed.
yes. That's great. So refreshing, and especially in this day of AI, but so refreshing that they value the writers in that way.
Oh, so much.
And
And you know what else is really interesting is so many what do they call it? Like mass media news stations, broadcasters who have either been fired or left are now on Substack. And the number one news guy in the world right now, his name is Aaron Parnas, Parnas. He is on Substack. He is ranked higher than Fox News and CNN some once in a while. If it's kind of amazing how journalists have emerged on this platform.
and maybe that's where all this is going, like the independent journalist
Yeah,
who could be objective. Remember those days?
I
Um,
barely, yeah.
yeah, well, that's actually really refreshing, Rachel. I'm glad that we brought this up. But let's now we kind of establish how Substack works. How do you use it to grow your audience before and after the book launch?
This is such a great question because I get this asked. People ask me this all the time, and I'm working with a number of clients. Their books are not out yet, but they're on Substack. So what I suggest to people is have a niche or an idea of what you write about. So, for example, for me, I'm Bad Redhead Media's all things book marketing. So, even if you're scrolling, if you're not interested in book marketing, just keep scrolling. It's not going to apply to you, right? Of course,
Right.
I bring up other topics too. If you aren't sure what to do, and we've had this conversation too, Greg, you could just use your name, just like you would if you created a Facebook page, Rachel Thompson, author. You could be Rachel Thompson, author, not you, but Greg Michio, author on Substack. And then at some point, if you decide this is to create your publication, if you decide to change it, you change it. Nothing is written in stone. It's all flexible and you are allowed to change things, which I like a lot.
Yeah. I like that because that really helps you build your own personal brand, which is really, seems to be the where we're all going with everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk about it then. So you build this before you don't even have the book. What are you doing on Substack?
Right. So sorry, I meant to finish that conversation. So one guy that I'm working with is a ex Silicon Valley CEO, and he did a lot of startups. So he worked for a number of companies. So what he's going to be sharing are some things that didn't go into the book.
Oh, cool.
And that's what's going to be his Substack. I have another guy who started a company back in Illinois in the 1970s, a computer company, which was the perfect time to get late 70s, early 80s to get started in this, what ultimately ended up being a multi-million dollar company. He's now retired and he wrote a book called It Worked for Me. And so what he's writing about is called Seizing Opportunities Daily. So for him, it needs to be not just here's my book, buy my book. It's these are the things that I struggled with, and here's how I worked through it. And
Okay.
so I think that's really helpful. Even if you're not sure what the direction is that you're going to go, have an idea based on the main topics in your book. You can then write on those. So you don't want your Substack to be here's an excerpt,
Yeah.
thanks, buy my book.
Right.
They
Right.
want to see effort. Why would you buy a book from somebody who is copying pasting AI slop into their Substack, right?
Yeah.
So it's a chance for us to really showcase our writing.
Mm, like it.
Yeah.
Um, Give me a sense of the just so I know what a good post is lengthwise. I we've both been bloggers, and I think good writing is make it as short as you can, or just make it meaningful and deliver punch. I mean, is there a length you see with the Substacks, or just varies on what you want to talk about?
The only cutoff really that you see is it'll tell you you're nearing email length, which means that Gmail and other email providers will only put this much in and it'll say to read the rest, click here and it'll take you over to Substack to finish it.
Okay.
Some people don't want to write anything that will go past email length because that's not a Substack thing. That's a Gmail and
Yeah.
all the providers. So they'll write short enough so they don't hit that. Other people don't care. They'll write 5,000 word treatises. I It's really up to what the person wants. What I always think about though is if it's going to be scraped or indexed by Google because it's public, not behind a paywall, what's that top couple lines going to be? Are they going to get my title? Are they going to get my keywords and my subtitle? So I think if you can think about it like a newspaper or a journalism where you put the who, what, when, where, why up at the top, and then you put the story below it just so you get their interest. So if you can think of Substack that way. But if that doesn't work for people because it's like, oh, that's so like clickbaity and gamey, just write.
Yeah.
Your people will find you.
Yeah. That's good. Give me some practical strategies how to turn those subscribers into what you say readers, buyers, advocates.
The best It costs some money, but the best way to grow if you have a book out, and it doesn't matter how long it is to use subscriber surge giveaways. And those are companies like Book Sweeps is one that I use. It's $100 a month, and I get anywhere between 500 to 2,000 opt-in subscribers. So it's all within the legal, this
Wow.
and that, the Can Spam Act and the GDPR guidelines in the UK. It's all done for you. And then they give you, I can download a new list every day if I want to. I actually just do it once a week. And I have grown. One guy just started 3 weeks ago and he's up to 900 subscribers, which is more than most people will get in an entire year.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it, I'm, and you're not gaming the system because people are opting in out of interest to your book, and it's a giveaway. There's 5 or 6 or 10 other books, and the winner gets copies of all the books. But in order to enter, they choose to opt in. So then I get to import them, and then they can either leave at that point or stay. I have very little attrition, thankfully.
That is amazing. Any broader book marketing tips that you've got that you think really move the needle for people?
I think you have to spend a lot of time interacting. A lot of people want to just post and leave, and that's it. And interaction and engagement is what actually moves the needle forward. And when I say that, I mean that's what algorithms are looking at. So if they see that a post got 25 likes and no interaction, it's not going to get ranked as well as a post that maybe has 10 likes and 50 interactions. So they're also now like X and Facebook, LinkedIn, they're also looking at views. And so I think it's important that you look at your analytics and see where are you spending your time and what are you getting back in return, and also track your clicks. I think that's so important because I use Genius Link. I think it's $5 a month, for like 1,000 up to 1,000 clicks. But this is what we don't know as authors. I don't. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, they give no data other than how many units. I don't know where those clicks originated. I don't know if it came from Substack. I don't know if it came from Facebook. So I track that, and then I know where the clicks originate and also where they end up. Maybe they don't go to Amazon. Maybe they go to Barnes and Noble. So maybe I want to spend some time there. Usually it'll be Amazon for almost everybody.
Are you
But
saying clicks from Substack out?
clicks from, sorry, book clicks. So I have tracking links for all of my books that I use everywhere. So I will know if that click originated to my book from Substack or
Oh,
Facebook or
got it.
X, etc. And that helps me decide where I'm going to spend any advertising money, if I'm going to spend any. Facebook tends to be where I get 80% of my traffic. So I spend some advertising money on Facebook. I don't love having to, I don't have to do that, but it definitely helps. And that's paid for by my sponsor, um, Genius Link. So that's kind of
Ah,
how that all works.
nice. And
Yeah.
what does it take to get a sponsor? I mean, that's kind of intriguing.
You know, I asked. I went to them and I said, I've been using your stuff for years, and we've had a very collaborative relationship. I've written articles for them. They've had me review some stuff. Just a really great group of young guys. And I just went and said, hey, I'm going to be doing this. I'm happy to mention you. I really want to build. And they said, okay, sure. Let's do, if you write weekly, this is the amount we'll give you for advertising. And that's how it worked. But honestly, I asked. I don't think you can go to a company you've never done business with and don't have a relationship with and go, hey, you want to sponsor me?
Right.
Unless you're a big name. Like influencers can go to, and say, I've got 1 million followers on Instagram. Will you pay me to do your, like, that kind of stuff? But I don't do any of that kind of work.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. And then when would you, because you hear a lot of people using the paid version of Substack, when would you kick that in? Who does that?
It's interesting. I did not do, it's called the paid tier or paid subscribers. Um, you have a couple options with Substack. I suggest starting with everything free, unless you are a business person and you are trying to build a specific cohort or community, and then you know what you're doing. But if you're an author, I would suggest keeping everything free, because then anybody can see it. It's indexed by Google and AI search. I know I sound like a broken robot, but just always be thinking visibility.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And I think for you just really have to decide where you want to spend your time and how much effort you're willing to put in. I think that's the balance that people have to come up with. I don't know if that answered the question though.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, ultimately your goals, what you're trying to do. Do you want to have a paid community that's, is that what you really want to do? Do you want to just sell books and get
Yeah,
them?
and there are like a couple different, they give you a few options on payment structures. You can keep everything free, or you can start collecting payments, or you can also do a paid chat, which is like a direct message only to your subscribers. So only people who subscribe can actually participate in the chat. I haven't done that. I have anybody who creates a publication and has subscribers has chat. You just have to turn it on. It's just a toggle, but you don't have to charge for it. Some people do. So people have said, well, are you going to keep office hours? Some people pay $5 a month, open, come and talk to me for an hour kind of thing. I'm
Okay.
just so busy. I don't have time to do something like that. So
Yeah.
but it did take me, I would say, probably a year to turn on paid subscriptions, and I just keep it as optional. All of my information is completely free. If people want to pay to support the work that I'm bringing to them, then they can pay whatever it is, $5 or $6 a month or a
Yeah.
year. I think out of my 12,000 subs, I have 20 paid subscribers. So for
Okay.
me, paid subscribers are not the goal, but it's certainly lovely. And I'm
Yeah.
very thankful. But I don't want to paywall my stuff because I feel like what I'm helping people do is learn
Yeah.
and they don't know where to go. And so I just would rather keep it free. But it is also sending me clients. People are saying, okay, she knows what she's talking about. She
Right.
has 15 years of experience. Let's give it a try. I mean, just this week, I got 3 new clients just from my Substack, which honestly I didn't expect. I really just wanted it to help people learn, and
Yeah.
then also to certainly cement my expertise after having done this for so long. And that was it. So it's been a wonderful benefit that I'm getting business out of it too.
Well, that's fantastic, Rachel. I love the work you're doing, always have, and you've helped so many people out in the years I've known you, and I'm glad to see you always continuing to adapt your game to new media, but still got that core driving force of helping writers, which I love because yeah, I had my little desk space when I was a kid too, and it's
Oh, I
cherished.
love that.
Yeah, it's cherished. It's cherished real estate, both physically and mentally, for sure.
It is. It is. I think if people can take you seriously as a writer, even at the age of 10, or how whatever age you were, just to have that encouragement was crucial in developing my writing career.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rachel, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it? How do they get to your Substack? How do they work with you?
The easiest thing, honestly, is just look up Bad Redhead Media. I'm everywhere. So if you want to look up Bad Redhead Media on Google or AI or YouTube, I don't do much with YouTube, but I have a couple videos there. Substack is just substack.com/Bad Redhead Media. Go to my site, badredheadmedia.com, or email me badredheadmedia@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
It's been
It's
a
been
pleasure.
great.
Yeah. Okay. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on another edition of Thought Leaders Live. We'll catch you on the next one.